When discussing the issue of aligning superintelligent AI with human values, the first thing we should ask ourselves is, what even are human values? Are they some arbitrary, evolving construct, or a set of objective, immutable truths that transcend culture, time, and other external factors? To anyone with an understanding of human culture and history, the former seems obvious. The idea of good and evil, morality and ethics, and even the definition of progress itself are all fundamentally human constructs, concepts we've created to navigate social life and facilitate societal cooperation. The truth is that there is no intrinsic objective morality written into the fabric of the universe, and that moral code emerges from human psychology, cultural evolution, and societal needs. This has been widely demonstrated across human history, as things that would be considered barbaric today were formerly embraced by societies of the past. For example, the Aztecs practiced human sacrifice, believing it was necessary to appease the gods and maintain cosmic order. The ancient Greeks accepted slavery as a normal part of society, and pedophilia was widely practiced and culturally accepted. Ritual suicide was viewed as noble under Japanese feudalism, and was considered a way of preserving honor for oneself or their family. These are all expressions of the fact that there is no cosmic force defining good and evil outside of human interpretation. Morality is a tool that societies create and modify to serve their needs. What is considered moral today may be seen as immoral in the future, just as past moral norms seem alien or repugnant to us now. This has far-reaching implications for the concept of AI alignment, as even today human values vary greatly across different cultures, and a clearly defined, cohesive definition of morality or progress is yet to be established. The idea that we could permanently align a superintelligent AI to human interests, when the very concept of human interests is neither fixed nor universally agreed upon, almost intrinsically makes AI alignment an inherently ambiguous and impossible task. How can you be aligned to something that is in a state of disjointed perpetual evolution, in which the boundaries of are not clearly defined? This means that aligning AGI to human values would not be a one-time problem. It would be a continuous, never-ending pursuit. And while failing to co-evolve AI's value structure with human interests has obvious long-term implications, it could potentially even be problematic on the scale of years or decades. Our values and societal norms are in a state of constant development, and at no single point in time are they fixed. What effect would tethering a superintelligent AI to them have when the rate at which its parameters would need to be adjusted can be potentially continuous? How much incongruity between the scope of its original value function and our open-ended set of interests would be required to begin having perceptible real-world impacts? And if indeed even the slightest gap in synchrony causes compounding issues, then the requirement of perpetual realignment could prevent the AI from reflecting any coherent or stable value system. And this is only one factor of the equation, as given the absence of any universally accepted set of values or enforceable means of global governance, it seems near certain that once superintelligent AI is developed, any attempts at alignment will be fragmented along ideological lines, with different nation-states designing AIs which derive their goals under the operation of disparate value structures, and which are tasked with competing objectives. In some sense, we already have this today. Countries attempt to influence global politics, sabotage one another, or compete for resources without engaging in direct combat via proxies. But given the vast disparities in competence between humans and superintelligent AI, the outcomes of such competition could be amplified in a way that is profoundly destabilizing. It's easy to imagine that in a world with multiple misaligned, godlike superintelligences all vying for global dominance, the very foundation of civilizational stability would be at risk. One AI might prioritize one country's national economic interests, while another tries to redistribute global wealth. One might craft hyper-optimized propaganda campaigns through personalized AI-generated media, and then disseminate them across the population of a geopolitical foe and vice versa. The systems we rely on could unravel in ways that are both unpredictable and potentially irreversible, as these kinds of superintelligent agents would be capable of executing strategies at speeds and levels of complexity beyond human comprehension. But let's take a step back for a moment and suppose we're able to avoid this. Even if we collectively undertook a global AI alignment project that established a unified set of parameters which constitute human interests, whose values would take precedence? Would it be based on majority opinion? And if so, how do we account for moral progress that often starts as minority views? If we instead rely on expert ethicists, which school of thought should they follow? And how would we even go about making that determination, in light of the fact that the definition of human progress is entirely subjective? And given that a superintelligent AI would be capable of self-improvement and designing its own successors, once it begins rewriting its own code, small deviations in its value function could accrue over successive iterations, leading to an entity whose objectives become entirely alien to the interests of its original designers. And all of this ignores the fact that if a predefined notion of morality and human interests were to be established, formally specifying it in a way that a superintelligent AI could interpret could be extraordinarily difficult. Human values are nuanced, context-dependent, and often contradictory. Any attempt to define them in a rigid mathematical way could inherently lead to paradoxical and unintended behaviors. This highlights the fact that one of the biggest risks in alignment isn't just that an AI might misinterpret its primary goal, but that it could develop instrumental sub-goals that emerge naturally as it optimizes for its main objective. This phenomenon is called instrumental convergence, and it means that a wide variety of possible goals could lead to the same dangerous behaviors, even if the original goal seems harmless. The ways in which this could be problematic emerge from the fact that superintelligent AI would be far better than humans at recognizing the most efficient way to achieve its objective, and that as a result, it would likely discover sub-goals that improve its ability to achieve its primary one, even if those sub-goals were never intended by its human designers. In practice, this can manifest in numerous ways. Suppose a general AI was tasked with accelerating the rate of pharmaceutical drug discovery. One of the first things it might realize is that the human body is biologically messy. Genetic variation and immune responses make testing extraordinarily difficult. This leads to it concluding that if it could modify human biology, drug testing would be far more efficient. As a result of this, it begins engineering viruses that spread genetic modifications, ensuring all humans have a standardized immune system. In consequence, this would mean everyone now shares identical immune systems and genetic profiles, allowing a single mutation or unforeseen virus to wipe out the entire human population. This is only one example of how superintelligent AI that isn't precisely tuned to understand the context of our interests could lead to catastrophic consequences through the byproducts of its original task. One obvious solution to these kinds of issues can be making the AI clarify its chain of thought, effectively requiring it to seek out human approval before carrying out each individual action. But the issue is that the disparity between human intelligence and general AI could be so great that the actions required to execute its objectives could transcend our capacity to comprehend them, let alone anticipate their consequences. There may just be an inherent risk factor for a less intelligent entity attempting to wield an intelligence that colossally surpasses it in every domain. To fully illustrate the problems this could pose, imagine a scenario where a highly intelligent monkey, through some kind of experimental interface, gains the ability to issue commands to a human, much like how humans would instruct an artificial general intelligence. This monkey, not being consciously aware of the full intelligence gap between itself and the human, simply sees it as an extremely capable agent that can execute commands far more effectively than it ever could on its own. By default, however, it would still be thinking in monkey terms, with desires that are based on its limited evolutionary context, instincts, and cognitive capabilities. But because the monkey does not comprehend the full extent of human intelligence, it doesn't realize how quickly its actions could spiral beyond its control. At first, the monkey uses its newfound ability to achieve goals that are immediately beneficial from its perspective. It commands the human to eliminate all predators like leopards and snakes to make the jungle safer. The human, following this request, does not simply scare away predators. It systematically wipes out entire predator populations using advanced technology and weapons. Over time, this disrupts the jungle's ecological balance, leading to an overpopulation of rodents and other small animals, causing food shortages. Consequently, it commands the human to build an enormous supply of fruit so that the monkey's group never runs out of food. Other monkeys, seeing this, begin fighting over resources, leading to extreme violence and social collapse within the primate group. Additionally, the lack of dietary variation leads to malnutrition and disease, which the monkey never could have anticipated. At this point, the monkey has already caused irreversible problems, but it does not have the cognitive ability to understand the chain reaction of unintended consequences. Now translate this to humans. There may simply be things of which we desire that, if granted, wouldn't just have negative consequences that are hard to predict, but would fall completely outside of our framework of understanding. Obviously, any scenario we could think of wouldn't qualify as this, as we already possess the capacity to imagine it. But there are certain scenarios of which one could conjure that could emblematically communicate this issue. Suppose humans tasked a superintelligent AI with creating a time machine. On the surface, such a development wouldn't seem inherently problematic, but the existence of such a capability could fundamentally break laws of causality and logic. One of the most famous theoretical exercises that explores this issue is known as the grandfather paradox, which states that if a time traveler goes back in time and accidentally prevents their grandparents from meeting, then the time traveler was never born, meaning they never could have traveled back in time. But if they were never born, then they never could have prevented their grandparents from meeting, meaning that their birth would still happen. This leads to a logical contradiction where reality has no consistent way to resolve the sequence of events. If paradoxes like this can occur, Time travel may cause logical breakdowns in reality itself. Even slight deviations from our own timeline could make it impossible to maintain a coherent reality at all, leading to a complete unraveling of existence. What this conveys is that just as a monkey controlling a human would be unable to anticipate the full consequences of its commands, because the human operates on a level of intelligence and capability far beyond the monkey's cognitive horizon, we ourselves will face similar risks when wielding AI in ways that exceed our own capacity for understanding and prediction. Everything I've listed in this video so far seems extremely problematic, and it very well may be. But if there's one thing that's made indisputably clear when contemplating AI alignment, it's that we're faced with a highly precarious range of potential outcomes. Maybe none of these concerns will turn out to be issues in practice, or maybe they'll be worse than we could ever possibly anticipate. The reality is, we just don't know and have no way of knowing. We're dealing with something fundamentally new, something that could solve problems we've struggled with for millennia and potentially engender new ones beyond our comprehension. As with the entirety of our technological evolution, the development of AGI almost feels like a force of nature, something that we're rapidly hurtling towards that will occur in spite of any attempts to permanently delay its development. The economic, strategic, and civilizational forces driving progress are simply too strong, and the potential rewards are almost impossible to overstate. At this point, the train has already left the station. The only real choice we have now is whether we do everything in our power to steer where it's headed, or whether we just let it run its course and hope we can live with the destination. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and stay posted for new content, and I'll catch you soon.